Morning, everyone, and welcome to the Township of North Frontenac's regular council meeting of Friday, January the 31st. I'd like to begin with a notice about recorded meetings. Please be advised, North Frontenac council meetings are recorded. By attending a public meeting of council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. Members of council, staff, delegates, and attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and/or unacceptable behavior or comments. So we begin this gathering by acknowledging and celebrating these traditional lands as a gathering place of the first peoples and their ancestors who are entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. We do so respecting both the land and the indigenous people who continue to walk with us through this world. Today, the Township of North Frontenac is committed to working with indigenous peoples and all residents to pursue a united path of reconciliation. Item 3, approval of the agenda.
Moved by Councilor Regent, second by Councilor Hudel. Be it resolved that council approves the agenda for the regular meeting of council dated January 31st, 2025 as circulated.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. Business profile, no motors.
Moved by Councilor Regent, seconded by Councilor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the business profile of Knoll Motors provided by the Economic Development Task Force.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. Presentations. Youth Program Supervisor Sarah McCullough, Rural Frontenac Community Services. Welcome.
We'll slide there. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us here today. For those of you who don't know me or don't remember me, I'm Sarah McCullough, and I am the Youth Program Supervisor with Rural Frontenac Community Services. And sitting here lovely with me today, because it's a PA day, so we get to have her, this is Jess Quinn, and she's the Youth Program Assistant. So she is the one who is in face with the kids at our Kids Club program every week up here in Clarendon, at Clarendon Central. All right. I get control of the remote this year. This is fun. So who are we? So our team provides recreational based programming for youth in North and Central Frontenac, and we slide mental health and life skills development into those programming. And when I say our team, I mean, it's Jess and me, and we have currently 3 high school students employed in our program and 1 volunteer, high school volunteer. So our services and program, well, today we're here to talk about our Kids Club program at Clarendon Central Public School, but we also provide babysitters courses, home alone courses, which is of course for ages 10 and up to stay at home by yourself, and to give some guidelines and rules about that. Not everybody knows what home alone course is. We also do March break camp and summer camp. We run a youth hub for high school age students. I work as a rural youth outreach worker to work with youth at risk of homelessness or needing access to services such as mental health, food security, etc. We provide volunteer opportunities for our high schooler youth and some of our younger youth. We do the Clothes for Kids program in the Warm Feet Project. So we provide snowsuits and boots to youth in North and Central Frontenac. And we do the Back to School Backpack program. So we provide a backpack full of supplies to students in the area so they can start the year off right. So Kids Club. Kids Club runs 1 night a week at each of the local-ish schools in North and Central Frontenac. So Mondays we're at Grec. No, sorry, I messed that up. Mondays we're at the Child Center. Tuesdays we're up here at Clarendon Central. Wednesdays we're at Land O'Lakes, and Friday we're at Greg. Those should be switched. My apologies on that, folks. We come with games and crafts and activities and social emotional learning, and we do food and snacks, and it's a great time. We take up to 15 youth in each one of our locations, except for our Friday nights at Rec. We do 20 youth at that program just because we have a bigger space allocated for it, and we get the giant gym, which the kids really love. So Kids Club up here in Plevna. In this picture, our kids are doing some fear factor discovery. They're sticking their hands into these jars full of really icky, yucky stuff and figuring out what it was as part of our Halloween celebration. We, last year, for the last year school year, the 23-24 school year, we had 15 youth signed up into the program. So we were at capacity for the whole year. We currently have 11 youth in the program, and this is mostly, our kids are starting to age up. So we do grades 1 to 6 at Clarendon. So the kids, when they go up into grade 7, they're no longer in our program, unfortunately. And we're starting to engage some of the younger youth and getting parents new to the area, knowing who we are, so that we can hopefully get up to 15 maybe by the end of the school year. We shall see. And for your information, our Kids Club program at Clarendon Central has been running since 2010. We do a lot of leadership within our program. So as I mentioned, we employ currently 3 high school students. We typically have 4, but we've changed our model a little bit this year. So in this photo, you'll see Mabel Saunders. Mabel actually attended Clarendon Central Public School for a bit when she was younger. Mabel, for the last semester, was our co-op student on Tuesdays, and she actually had a partially paid co-op. So she would come in and work in the office with me during the day, and then she'd come up to Plevna and do Kids Club. And we also do youth volunteers. So we have high schoolers who come out to Kids Club program to get their community service hours or work at our youth hub for community service hours. We do the babysitters course, which allows for employment for our youth as well. There's very minimal jobs for youth in our communities, as we all know. So if we're able to train them in things that can provide some level of employment for them, we're so happy to do that. And in 2024, we had 24 participants complete the babysitters course, and 3 of them were from North Frontenac. I always try, there might have been more. I try to keep track of who's from where, but it was great. And I just want to note on this. So this year, our Kids Club program, we had set our end date before Christmas break, and then it was a snow day. So we didn't get to come up. So we were like, okay, guys, we need to do something for these kids. So we came up and we did pancakes for the entire school. We did a pancake lunch for the school. And this teddy bear in our picture, our Kids Club kids named him Teddy. And Teddy brings special treats and snacks to our Kids Club group. And on this day, we have a giant bin full of teddy bear beads. So each kid in the school got a teddy bear bead. Our summer programming. So we offer a 7-week summer day camp program. We're one of the only day camp programs in our area. So we have a lot of overnight camps, but we don't have very many day camps. I know Bon Echo runs a day camp with swimming involved as well. But for kind of just that general day camp, kind of it. So we take 20 youth a day. We have subsidies available. So we try to make our programs as barrier-free as possible for our youth. So I have campers who pay $5 a day. I have campers who pay $15 a day. I have campers who pay $10 a day. And the actual price of our camp is $20 a day. And that is bare minimum what we can charge to cover just the supply fees of our camp program. We do a lot of fun stuff. This summer, some things that we did new was we offered a biweekly junior camper. So we've been hearing a lot from the community that there isn't much for our ages 4 to 6 to kind of do, either after school or during the summer. You know, daycare goes to kind of that great age 4, but if you're not already in the daycare, you're not going to get a spot just for summer. And a lot of camp programs, like in our camp program, starts at age 6. So we do ages 6 to 12. So we did 3 junior camper days, and we had a lovely turnout of that. And we are planning to continue that this summer. And we ran that bi-weekly, and we had a couple of youth from North Frontenac in that as well. And we also ran a biweekly junior hub. So as I mentioned, we have our Rural Frontenac Youth Hub, which is for our high school age youth. We've been trying to target our grades 6 to 8 because they're kind of our transitional aged youth. They're kind of aging out of our Kids Club program, or they're just not interested in what we're doing. They don't want to be with the younger kids. So we wanted to find a way to engage them and find a space for them. And we had over 20 kids come out to our junior hub this summer. So again, we're trying to continue that for this summer. And we're actually looking at the potential to offer this throughout the school year as well. Our youth hub, so we're going to continue on this. This was from our Halloween photo shoot. All the participants got to take home photos of their creepy-tastic costumes. We have a biweekly drop-in in Sharba Lake that high school students can come to. So they walk up in groups from the high school, they come on up and we cook food together. We have access. So if they want to talk to me about something specific, we have like a separate room that we can go in that has like chairs and couch. So we can talk and I can get them accesses to mental health services or food support or whatever they might be needing in that case. It allows me and Jess a base to connect with our youth in a level that's outside of the school system, that's still within their community and is in a comfortable zone that they feel open to discuss things that are happening in their life. We've had multiple instances of things brought to our attention by high school students coming to our hub that we've then gone further to bring it to a higher attention because they're not comfortable necessarily saying these things to the people in their school, to the staff in their school, or not wanting to be called out as the tattletale. So I'm happy to be the tattletale in those cases. And I go in and I raise the flag and we get things brought to attention. It also brings a spot that our high schoolers get to gather safely and like in a minimalized, supervised space. We don't have a lot of spaces for our teens to gather. In North Frontenac, in Central Frontenac, we don't have, youth centers. We don't have a gym. We don't have Tim Hortons for them to hang out at. So this is a space that they get to come to and they can just chill and play games, do crafts, but we also slide that life skills with like cooking skills. The amount of kids who don't know how to cook rice, I tell you, we teach them. and just like building things. We do self-care month in November and we did some study nights for exams. And yesterday, actually, we just did a end of semester party. So we had 7 youth come out for the full day. So we were open 9 until 3:30. They were there all day with us and we made Brazilian pastels. So they made their own flour pastry and they made their own meat fillings and we made rice and they engaged in that. And then we played games and it was just a really fun time. It's a really cool place for our teens to come. So your importance in our program. North Frontenac Township provides $6,000 of funding to our Kids Club program. This funding is essential for our Kids Club program. The youth program itself is a fully grant funded program, meaning if I don't have grants or township municipal funding, we don't have programs. So I apply to multiple grants a year to make sure we get to do all those things I listed. And sometimes we're not successful. So that's why we're so thankful to you guys for your continued support of our Kids Club program. It means that we're getting up here and we're engaging with our youth and we're getting to play with them and getting them connected as soon as we see things that they're going to need services for. It also lets us see parents as they're picking up and we hear like, we can pull in, oh, you might be needing our snowsuit program, or have you heard about Maltby Center? Like, I see these things coming up with your kid, and maybe this could be a way we could breach this and we can get you connected to some services or supports, or our family counselor, Brandon, who works with adults and to support parents in their lives. And you might notice we also have a CEO Corey Clott in this photo here. Just saying. This was at Winterfest last year. We were doing some beanbag tossing. And here's a breakdown of our budget. So just so you can see where it is. So again, you guys find the actual cost of the program currently is $7,844. And you fund 6,000 of that. And we fundraise for the differences in this funding. And we have a lovely picture of our dinosaur month with a dinosaur cupcake. It was supposed to be lava icing. Other funding. So like I said, I applied to multiple grants a year. Unfortunately, last year, our grants weren't very successful. So I applied to 3 different grants, 2 community foundation grants and another grant that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head. Money is getting tight for youth funding right now. There's been a shift in funding streams and there's been a lot of cuts happening to youth funding. So it's getting harder for us to access grants and to keep our program funded. Fortunately for us, we have you guys who fund our Kids Club program, which is amazing. We also are secured for 3 years. We're actually just starting year 2 of our United Way funding for our Bridging the Gaps for Rural Youth program, which is the funding piece that allows me to do that outreach work and to run our youth hub. As well, they give us money to help subsidize the babysitters course and to pay for the licensing for the Home Alone course. And then Central Frontenac funds the 3 Kids Club sites in Central Frontenac. And that's kind of my spiel, guys. So thank you so much for having us. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Yes, Stephanie. Oh, sorry.
First of all, I want to thank you for being here and for your enthusiasm. Councilor Ranger.
Sarah, anything to do with youth is very near and dear to my heart, but I have a question. You mentioned you have 3 high school students that help with the leadership program.
They're employed by us.
Okay, is that through GREC?
Yes, so all of our current high school students go to GREC.
And does NAEC have the ability to participate in that program?
Yes, so if a North Addington student wanted to apply to work, we would specifically have them work at Clarendon Central because that would be the kind of closest.
Yep.
It's a matter of them having transportation because we have to be at the school for the end of the school day.
Okay.
Before the end of the school day, because we get the kids right out of class.
So is there somebody at the high school in Cloyne that is a contact for you?
So I have contact with Cindy Scott, who's the current adolescent care worker / student support counselor.
Okay.
Yeah, so we send the posting out. We usually post at the end of the fall for our high school students, and that posting goes out to, I send it out, we post it socially on our Facebooks and stuff. I post it to different groups. So I'm in the Northbrook, Clinton, Cloyne, what's happening page.
Yep.
So it does get posted out there.
Thank you.
Counselor Hoodle.
Yes, excuse me. Yeah, sir. It's quite obvious you love your job. The enthusiasm is great. And just thank you for what you're doing in our community.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Deputy Mayor.
Is there a similar program in the next county, like for students to NAEC?
Yes, so there is Bon Echo runs a day camp. So they actually get their swimming lessons and their day camp out of the, they get their swimming lessons and day camp at Bon Echo. And they do busing. They actually have I think it's Friends of Bon Echo who run it. And there's busing to bring kids from Clinton and Northbrook up to it.
There's not a program run by a social service agency like this one.
No, there is. Lark runs early on. But that's with parents and it's for ages 0 to 6.
Anybody else? Counselor Fowler.
Yes, I noticed that you're, thanks for the presentation, too, and I appreciate it. You're short about $1,800. How do you expect to get that type of funding? Where are you going to look for that?
So we are a big agency in a way. So we do fundraising events such as a Chinese dinner quarter auction. We have donors who donate to our agency itself. We also pull from other programs, from like rental income from different business. So OW, ODSP, Providence Care, Addictions Mental Health Services all rent office space within our agency. Multi-Center rents office space within our agency, and as within our budget, we will pull some of that rental fee to help cover the differences in our budget in the youth program. But also fundraising events. So currently we just got a $5,000 grant from the grade 10 civics class at GREC. They did a presentation about our youth program and they won a $5,000 grant through the Youth Philanthropy Initiative. So that $5,000 is going into the youth program budget and we're going to help use it to help cover differences in our youth hub funding because we want to go right back to the high schoolers who presented on it.
Counselor Regent.
Sarah, I think the program you're thinking of at Bon Echo might be the Mazenot Swim program.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Sorry.
which is largely paid for through sponsorships and fundraising. Those kids work really hard to
Mhm.
get the money they need to take those swimming lessons there. So that's probably what you're referring to.
Probably.
But Counselor Regent, Addington Highlands doesn't participate in any of this stuff that you know of?
I honestly can't answer that question. I can certainly get you the answer. I suspect they don't, but I can find it.
All right, it's probably not that important anyway. Okay, so ladies, thank you very much for coming and giving us this and keeping us updated and what everybody's doing. It's a great program.
Moved by Counselor Regent, second by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the presentation from Sarah McCullough, Youth Program Supervisor, and Jess Quinn, Community Services, providing an overview of their services and programs, and thanks them for their time spent today. And the council has included $6,000 to assist with funding the youth program in the 2025 budget.
Final comments? In favor? Carried. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Next up, we have a presentation on our septic inspections. Eric Colesmith from the Mississippi Rideau Septic System. I believe he's online.
Yes, hello.
Welcome, Eric.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to do this virtually. We have quite a few inspections that came in for today, so. I'll just get into it. We have the 2024 reinspection results for the presentation. Before getting into the results, I just want to highlight, we had found an error in the database. An inspector had made a duplicate entry. So the information in the agenda package, unfortunately, is incorrect. It will be off by one inspection. So the presentation staff has kindly been able to upload our revised presentation at this time, and we'll provide the revised information for the report. So again, as we go through, we'll see that we have 30 inspections instead of 31. So we'll go to the next slide. So for 2024, we had completed a total of 30 inspections. As mentioned, the information in the agenda package will indicate 31. Again, that was an error in duplication on our part that was discovered last week. So we conducted inspections on Bruley, Little Green, Mississauga, and Sand Lake. Of that, 58% of the waterfront property owners were present on site to receive information about the operation and maintenance of their sewage systems. 17 systems were identified as having no concern. So at the time of the inspection, things were operating, working correctly. 10 systems required remedial work, which is generally work that doesn't require permitting, more maintenance stuff like pump outs and removal of vegetation, installation of AFLs. And then 3 systems required replacement. Of those 3, one of them has already been fixed and corrected. So there is 2 still requiring replacement or repair. Next. This was just a photo of a system that we found. It's actually a treatment unit from the mid-70s, early 80s. Just an interesting find that's still functioning, working correctly. So next. So through the reinspection program, we identified different classes of sewage systems under the Ontario Building Code. There are 5 classes of systems. Class 1s, we identified 6. So those are composting toilets, incinerating toilets, or outhouses, earth pit privies. Class 2 systems, we found 4, which those receive just sink shower water, no toilet waste, sink, shower, laundry. And class 3 systems, which are cesspit. Cesspits receive waste from a class 1. I think in this case, and most commonly, the class 3 is associated with a composting toilet. Most composting toilets will have an overflow, and that overflow needs to get directed to a class 3 system. And then the final class that we inspected was a class 4, which is your typical septic tank and leaching field, which we found 26, or representing 70% of the systems that we found. And this year through the program, we didn't have any class 5 systems, which are holding tanks that have no discharge and need to be pumped as they fill up. So this year, no holding tanks inspected. These charts are pie charts just help to represent where systems are found on the property, or the majority of them. So we look at systems that are, we measure the distance of the multiple components, but this one is representing the septic tank to the surface water, so the lake or river, and the distribution pipes to the surface water. So highlighted in these ones immediately is that all systems that were inspected were greater than 15 meters or 50 feet to the water course, which is the building code minimum requirement and has been the requirement since approximately 1974. And then the majority of systems were located more than 100 feet or greater than 30 meters to the water body, which just provides some kind of understanding where the systems are and their setback. So an increased setback allows for more time for nutrient attenuation to be caught up in the soils, and allow for that treatment before getting to those surface waters. So as part of the re-inspection program, we do conduct a septic tank inspection. So the septic tanks, again, with a Class 4 system, being that 70% of the systems inspected were Class 4s. So the tanks, this year we had 14% plastic and 86% concrete. So concrete has been the preferred material for many years, especially back into the 70s, 80s, and through. Newer tanks, we're seeing a movement to plastic tank, which aren't affected by things like corrosion. So 2 of the tanks that we saw had some level of corrosion in them, which is illustrated in the photo in the bottom right, the white chalkiness, which is the gases reacting with the concrete. 4 of the tanks required a pump out, and we did find one system that did have an effluent filter installed. So the effluent filter is the device illustrated in the photo on the left. It provides filtration of the effluent before it leaves the tank, which can increase the treatment of the sewage, but also extend the life of the system. So if we inspect a system that doesn't have a filter, it is an automatic recommendation to install one, just to have that little bit of extra treatment and time. So with the inspections, we provide a system status. So as mentioned earlier, we have 4 different system status, so no concern. Again, no operational maintenance issues identified. Remedial work, operation and or maintenance issues were identified. Again, these are generally ones that don't require a permit to correct or to work on. More information required. 1 or more questions arose regarding the system or systems on site. So this generally comes up if we've identified another source of wastewater, another pipe coming out from under the cottage perhaps, and trying to identify what it goes through or where it goes. And then the last one is system replacement. We have included in the report system replacement repair. So on-site systems, the on-site system was not being maintained or operated properly and was posing or could pose a risk to human health or the environment. So in the report, we'll see system repair or replacement, just identifying that in some cases, for example, a Class 4 where the tank has failed, but the leaching bed appears to be operating, it wouldn't be a full replacement. They could repair or just replace that tank. So just highlighting that we can repair portions of the system if required. So this is, again, I just threw in a couple extra photos illustrating what we generally find if it's a failed, for example, gray water system. So this property owner had been, this wasn't located in North Frontenac, but they had been discharging gray water. They have a holding tank, and to avoid pumping, they had been discharging gray water to the surface of the ground. So you can see in the photo on the right, the amount of black material and that's built up, which is a sign of the bacteria that may be in the gray water, and nutrients going through over the surface of the ground and eventually potentially to a lake. So this is why we want to be able to capture those gray water systems and other systems for replacement if required. Next. So from the system status, we can see that our updated rate for system replacement repair was 10% of the systems. So that worked out to 3 systems. And again, 1 of those had been repaired and information provided before the end of the reinspection season. 33% required remedial work. And then the majority, 57%, had no concerns at the time of the inspection. And then during the reinspection, we identify deficiencies in systems. Generally, these are items that are fall under the remedial work. So pump outs required, Baffle maintenance, 6, so baffles help for sewage to settle in the tank and the separation of materials. Remove roots from the system, so roots can get in around pipes or lid openings, and generally they'll clog the inlet or outlet, causing a system malfunction or backup. Vegetation issues, this is generally over the leaching bed, where there can be large trees or shrubs growing in the bed. The concern with those is roots getting into the pipes and then clogging the system. Effluent level, so as the system ages, or if there is a blockage, the level of the sewage in the tank can become elevated, and doesn't always indicate a system failure, but it is something that we identify so it can be monitored over time. And then to monitor the corrosion, again, 2 tanks. So for a total of 19 kind of different deficiencies that we found through the re-inspections. And that's it for the presentation portion. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Eric. Does anyone here have any members of council? Seeing none, thank you, Eric, for the presentation. Yeah.
Moved by Counselor Regent, second by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the presentation from Eric Colesmith, Mississippi Rideau Septic System Office, regarding the 2023 reinspection results, and thanks him for his time spent today.
In favor? Carried. Okay. 2024 septic reinspection program and the proposed program for 2025.
Moved by Counselor Regent, second by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled 2024 Septic Reinspection Program and Proposed Program for 2025. The council approves the continuation of a voluntary septic reinspection program in partnership with MRSSO for the 2025 season. And that council approves the Public Works Manager signing the 2025 agreement for septic reinspection services on behalf of the township. The council instructs the Public Works Manager to place a copy of the 2024 Sewage System Reinspection Program report on the township website, and that staff shall assist the MRSSO to arrange presentation for lakes involved in the 2025 program.
Any comments? Deputy Mayor.
The Environmental Task Force has a subgroup looking at possibility in the future of limited mandatory testing, and I guess that subgroup is, maybe I should ask the chair of the task force to speak about it further, but my impression is that that subgroup is right at the very beginning of considering the issues and is working with the North Frontenac Lake Association Alliance.
Mr. Erdl, do you have a response?
Yeah, that's correct. We just started this. We've had 1 or 2 meetings. We just had one last week. So we're gonna have some recommendations coming in the next few months, but we're still at the beginning stages. And I know that Darwin, when we were talking about when we're picking the next lakes for the volunteer inspection, there's gonna be a little more thought into which lakes we choose, and we're gonna go through the environmental task force as well. But
Because my typical concern here is that we send out 300 to 500 letters and we get like 30 people want their system inspected. But then you get into a lake association meeting and who wants their tank inspected? 60 people, up to 60 hands. But when you actually send them a letter, that doesn't happen. So we're kind of committed to working with them. I know you're going to look at that. I appreciate it. Anything else? In favor of the motion? Carried. Okay, next up, we have a delegation about the Sunday Lake Cell or Communications Tower. Joe and Christina Kearns, Joe Clayton, Christina Kearns, just come up to the table, please. And
good morning, everyone. My name is Christina Kearns and my partner's name is Joe Clayton. We are both artists. We're both artists and nature photographers, and we live on the property adjacent to where the proposed tower will be located. A few weeks ago, I was asked to list the areas of concern that I wanted to raise here today. And after having additional time to further inform myself, I have reduced the number of issues I would like to raise here from 9 to 2. I am sure that you'll all be appreciative of this reduction. The 2 issues are, number 1, the location of the proposed tower on the property, and number 2, the location of the access road to the site. Both of these issues were broadly included in my list of concerns. We appreciate that people in the township generally want access to modern infrastructure and that the cell tower will provide. So we understand that this tower will be built at some point. What we were asking is that the township require that the placement of and the access to the tower consider fair and reasonable concerns of those people who stand to be most impacted. I believe this is where the township and council do when they are considering building permits and variances, and we are asking your support in doing this in the case of this tower. It is my understanding that you can acquire Rogers to address reasonable and relevant concerns before issuing your letter of concurrence to Rogers. I believe that this is clearly articulated in the federal rules concerning tower placement decisions. This is our simple request. To the first issue, the placement of the tower on the property. This is a large vacant property with many potential building sites. However, the proposed location is somewhat close to our home/gallery. Therefore, we simply ask you that you require Rogers to place the tower further away from the nearby homes such that the visual impact of the tower is lessened before you issue the letter of concurrence. We do not know exactly the distance that would achieve this goal, but we are prepared to work with you to help determine what additional distance will work. As it is rather large property of vacant land, this should not be an onerous request. Secondly, we similarly request that the access road be moved farther away from our home/gallery in order to minimize the impact it would have on us. Currently, the proposed road is quite close to our property line and the removal of the trees and the feeling of being in nature will be seriously reduced. Our view will be of that of a large road and not nature. As I stated at the outset, we are both artists, and in fact, the township recently provided us with funds to improve our gallery. We got the grant a few years back, 2.5 years ago or something, the business improvement grant, to improve how the gallery looks to the public, basically. So we put in all new windows, which were provided during that grant. The windows will now be facing, if that road goes in where it's supposed to go in, that road will be the view from the studio where I teach and where clients come in to view artwork. That'll be the new view, which is kind of like not very good for you as grant people and us as gallery being in this area to bring tourists in. This last point is very important as I provide art courses, and the closest to nature is a big part of that. And some people in this room have even had art classes given by me. As a result, would undermine your investment and have a negative effect and repercussions on us as individuals and gallery owners. So similar to my first point, I'm merely asking that the road be moved farther away from our homes so that this impact is minimized, even if there's a buffer of trees, whereas the road would be right beside the gallery. If there's a buffer of, say, 40 feet of trees all the way down, and then the road adjacent to that. I don't know if I'm making much sense in that, but we believe this is also a reasonable request and that you require Rogers to address this to your satisfaction before providing your letter of concurrence. There should be many other options, and we're prepared to work with you on that. Yes. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Joe, for coming in and letting us know of your concerns. I noticed you, first of all, does anybody else have any comments or questions they want to ask?
I don't have a question. I think I understand the issue. I just like to thank you for coming here today. I wasn't at the last council meeting, when Margie and her husband were here. So I'm going to thank them, for that. I think it takes a lot of guts to come here and tell everybody how you feel. I think I have a pretty decent understanding of the issue, and I've always said and will continue to say that, the best thing that we can do for our residents here is to communicate with one another and solve problems. That's what you pay us to sit here and do.
Mhm.
I appreciate your time. I'm sorry I missed the last meeting when you were here. So I appreciate your time. And I really hope we can figure this out for you. Because to have that access road right up against your house sounds pretty awful. And to have your view blocked sounds pretty awful.
Deputy Mayor?
I noticed you didn't mention the issue of communication, Christina. I visited your house, a few weeks ago. And I think at that time you said you had never heard of this. You did not get a communication. Is that still correct?
That's absolutely true.
So if that's the case, there's a clear violation of the process by, in this case, Prince. So in that case, it's very similar to, RG and Donnie's
Mhm.
situation.
Mhm.
And I gather we're investigating that. As you know, we have very limited ability to influence anything. This is run by a federal agency. I agree that a property with hundreds of feet of road frontage, why would they put the access road right against your lot line? I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what we can do to influence that.
Anybody else have any comments? Okay, is the road into the proposed site already there? Is it all staked out?
Yeah, there's a laneway, but they
So
are
that's what they're
proposing to
using.
make it a huge, to fit all the vehicles that would be coming in to bring the large equipment to put the towers in. So it's gonna be quite substantial and look more like our paved road out here.
Okay. And secondly, I want to address specifically what you're talking about, Deputy Mayor, about the distance. The
Mhm.
tower is not a 100-meter tower, it's shorter. So, okay. So it's less than 300 meters notification. Their residence is 4 from both tower sites, I understand it. And we have Lisa Severinsen on the line from Eorn. Lisa, are you there?
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for joining us. I believe you've heard the presentation from Joe and Christine. Is there anything we can do about moving the access road?
So at this point in time, myself and another colleague from EORN, our technical manager, she's also a part of the meeting. She's also online listening. We'll have to take that back. We have to also consider the landowner who has entered into an agreement with Rogers to place the tower on his property and ensure that things can be moved. So we can take that back and talk to the Rogers team, who will have to have discussions with the landowner as well.
Thank you. And is there any possibility they'll consider moving that tower a bit?
Again, that's something we will discuss. It's not unheard of. I guess it would depend on how far, etc., and input from both Rogers and the landlord as to the location on the property that it can go.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions, Councilor Hoodle?
It's just unfortunate, when I hear this concern that there wasn't public consultation at the beginning, because these issues can be addressed at the beginning, and these are reasonable requests. I've read the regulation, and there are certain things that can be requested and certain things that can't be requested. 2 items that you mentioned are considered reasonable requests, and this should be talked about during public consultation.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Regent?
So Lisa, I wasn't here at the last meeting, and I'm sure there's some information I don't actually have, but can you maybe, I don't know if you can or you can't, but I'm like gravely concerned that we have like two families sitting here that have issues with this. And yet they weren't consulted, or there was apparently no consultation, but the person who's putting the tower up seems to be able to just go ahead. Like, am I missing something? I feel like there's been a lot of steps missed.
So, if through you, Your Honor, from our understanding, at the time that this tower was proposed, the municipality used CRINS, which is an independent provider, to do your consultation process. From what I understand, they had provided a report to council that they said they had done their due diligence. So right now, I think we're kind of looking at ways to ensure that consultation did happen. And we're working with staff at the municipality. But from our understanding and Roger's understanding, the consultation process had been managed, and that was through the provider of CRINS that the municipality had entered into an agreement with.
Deputy Mayor?
Well, our evidence is that CRINS did not fulfill all the obligations of their report. CRINS no longer exists. We can speculate about why that may be the case. The federal agency no longer uses CRINS. An option for the federal agency is to use the township itself as the land use authority. I was not aware of that. We could have become involved in this whole process 1 or 2 or 3 years ago. I just find out now when the horse is basically out of the barn, that we could have been managing this in-house according to our own rules, as long as those rules were acceptable to ID, whatever it's called, the federal agency based in Sault Ste. Marie. That is not the case. What we're left with now is strong evidence that the CRINS reports were faulty.
Councillor Fowler?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for your presentation. These cell towers are a necessity, I believe, for health and safety. And I know a lot of people that don't like the looks of them. We don't even know how long they'll be in existence. There's other technology coming out where we might be using our cell phones from satellites and things like that. But I understand your problem. I've been to your place. I know what you're talking about. You know, if we can help you out, I'm sure we'll do what we can. And I just want you to know that. But we might not be in a position that we can do much. Okay, thanks very much.
And I do know from personal experience, sometimes they can move a tower, but you can't move it much because it's located within a certain sphere and it's got to be within that circle. So you can move it a bit here and there. So it is what it is. And if the road already exists, that would be obvious the way for them to go. So they may agree to it. It'll be up to EORN to see if they can deal with projects. So we'll try, but no promises. We'll be discussing this issue and we'll be discussing the Saskatchewan Road tower later in the closed session. Right. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
And just so you know, anybody who's here is welcome to stay or leave. It doesn't matter. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Regent.
Could I make a statement then?
Well, hang on. There is a session at the end of the meeting where it's open to public remarks. Okay, about issues that occur here.
When will it be?
It's at the end of the meeting. So it is before, hang on. I almost want to see if it's before the closed meeting or not. For the closed meeting. So, we have,
Which time would that be?
yeah, maybe it'll be 11, yeah, be over an hour.
Moved by Counselor Regent, second by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the outline of concerns regarding the Sunday Lake Cell Tower from Christine Kearns and Joe Clayton, and thanks them for their time spent today.
Any final comments? In favor? Carry. Okay, adoption of the minutes.
Moved by Counselor Regent, second by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council adopts the minutes of a meeting held January 10th, 2025 as circulated.
Any comments? In favor? Carry. Business arising, 2025 Earth Day event.
Moved by Counselor Regent, second by Counselor Hudel, whereas at the meeting held March 15th, 2024, council received for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled Land O'Lakes Garden Club Proposed Earth Day Event, and that the township has an adopted road program for events that include litter pickup along township roads. And whereas the event proposed by the Land O'Lakes Garden Club is large in scope and beyond the scope of the township's adopted road policy, and whereas there was potential liability and insurance concerns for the township due to the scope of the proposed event, a memorandum of understanding was required, providing that the garden club in their leadership role would oversee the event, be responsible for and provide proof of insurance for the event, and all volunteers indemnify the township and commit to all safety provisions. Now therefore be resolved that council receives for information an email dated January 24th, 2025 from the Public Works Manager advising the Land O'Lakes Garden Club is proposing to host an Earth Day cleanup event on Saturday, April 26th, and that the scope of the event remains the same as last year. And that the Public Works Manager proposes the township enter into a similar memorandum of understanding with the Land O'Lakes Garden Club for some minor amendments, and that council approves of entering into the MOU with Land O'Lakes Garden Club and directs the CAO to sign the memorandum of understanding.
Any comments? In favor? Carry. Item 10A, Communications A.
Moved by Counselor Regent, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved the council receives for information Section A items of the clerk's administrative report entitled Communications of Interest.
Comments? Seeing none, in favor? Carry. Communications Section B, B1, Stowe Road Community Association request for generator for Snow Road Hall, and that is a full building generator.
Moved by Counselor Regent, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved the council receives for information an email dated December 27th, 2024 from the Snow Road Community Association requesting a permanent generator be installed at Snow Road Community Hall, as the hall has been used as an emergency center in the past, and that the association has designated $3,500 as their contribution to the project. And that the manager of community development advised the former fire chief was unsuccessful in receiving a grant for the installation of a generator with the estimated cost at that time being $13,650 plus HST. The council requests the manager of community development watch for any grant opportunities, and the council will consider this request during the 2026 budget deliberations.
Have any comments? Councilor Fowler.
This, Snow Road Hall has been very generous in, supplying the extra funding when they had many of their projects, brought forward to the council. We do know that the building is a township building, but they do put out a lot of money, and the $3,500 is very generous. I hope we can get a grant. If we can't, or if they can't get enough money for the grant, I would encourage us to maybe put this in the budget at a later, maybe for next year or something like that.
Councilor Hoodle.
Just, how many of our other halls have these full generators?
Two of them have it concurrent. So the Berry Hall in Cloyne and the Alpha Community Hall have permanent standby.
And we use all our halls for emergency purposes?
Yeah, they can be available for that.
But they aren't all set up for that. The Hall in Cloyne is, right? And the one in Alpha has fire station. The others are not, there's no showers in them, and whatever else and so on. But we use them for cooling centers, whatever else. So it'd be nice, like, I'm looking at this saying, okay, why don't we pay for this out of the Canada Building Fund? That's what it's there for. And we offered the same opportunity, same cost sharing arrangement to Clare Mill and to the Harlow Home groups. We do that now. So that's about a 20 or 23%, whatever it is. I calculated it somewhere here. Cost sharing arrangement, and that they be offered the same opportunity right across the board. They want it. They put some of the money up, like Snow Road did, and we do that now. That's what I'm suggesting. What do you think? Councilor Regent?
Burke, are these other halls considered emergency centers? Like, because I know Berry Hall is. And this is for a generator for an emergency center. But we can't just say something's an emergency center unless it actually is set up to be an emergency center.
Corey, do you have an answer for that? Thank you.
So I guess it depends on what so we have within our emergency plan, we have two buildings that are considered emergency operations centers. So our first one is here,
Yeah.
our other one is Berry Hall, and that's fully set up for that. So we also have approvals from Ministry of Health from in the past, and not Ministry of Health, the Health Unit from in the past, that the halls could be used as evacuation centers. So, yeah, so some place for people to go if they need to eat or they need to get, cold or heat or whatever, cool or heat or whatever. So they're set up to function as that, but they're not actually our emergency operations centers. So there's two different things there, right? So.
But does the Claremont Hall not have a generator, a portable generator capability?
So the three halls that don't have permanent generators, we have the ability to hook up portable generators.
And that would be enough if there was an emergency situation, to run the lights, heat, cool. I don't know what that portable generator does.
We have the, what are they called, that hook into the hydrometer?
Generally,
Generalink. So we have those at all of those halls. So typically they will not run a oven, I think, and a dryer, but they're set up to run the heat, the lights, probably the stovetop, stuff like that, but they're typically not enough there to run an oven. So but we do have them for emergency, probably air conditioning, stuff like that.
just a comment like Snow Roads Hall is heated with a heat pump and electric baseboards. And that's not going to do it. So, Councilor Fowler.
And that's what I was gonna comment on, which baseboards that were put in and then the heat pump thing was put in later. And I don't know if it would be able to hold up that amount of electricity with just a regular generator.
Councilor Goodall.
Well, you can't say that unless you know the kilowatt hours of a generator, so it might be a large portable generator.
So this question is either Brooke or Corey. Where is the generator stored for the three holes that don't have them now? Don't have permanent installations now?
Two of them are stored in Plevena and one is available at the Snow Road Park.
Which way next door?
And the one at the Snow Road Fire, that's a huge generator. It's actually the fire department generator that they pull around. It's a great big thing. So that'll run some power. For sure.
So in case of an emergency, I mean, in a serious geographically dispersed emergency, is that generator going to be available for use for that particular hall? Or is it going to become secondary to the needs somewhere else? And I am taking like our discussion of yesterday in the emergency management meeting.
Yeah, and I think our other one is the other one that we purchased is fairly like 15,000, 12. It's pretty large as well. So we, again, typically if you have an emergency, I don't know that we've ever had to. In my time here, 18 years, we've never actually ended up having to use all of the halls for anything at one I don't think we've used one as an evacuation center in everything we've done, but that's not to say we have that, but we do have some big generators available as well as some other smaller ones as well.
Deputy Mayor.
I think it's certainly the case if you recommend this for Snow Road, you have to recommend it for Harlow and Plevena as well. So you're looking at, looks like a $10,000 township contribution in the case of Snow Road. So that's times three, $30,000. Probably we have an infrastructure fund.
Which is sitting at $1 million.
Yes. We offset this by selling the portable generators.
I couldn't imagine by very much, but it's something we could look into.
Councillor Hoodle. Correct.
Just, we would, the portable generator we use for other stuff as well, so we wouldn't want
That's
to get rid
the
of
problem.
those for sure.
I guess the question is, do we think we need an emergency center at all these sites, sort of what Stephanie was saying, right? We have designated emergency. We have portable generators to go to these sites if there is an emergency. So as a council, we've got to decide, do we want to make every community hall an emergency center with a permanent generator?
Look at it this way. Because of the recent issues over the last years, more and more people have bought home generators. Some are standalone, you go out and you pull the cord and you plug it in and so on. Some are Generate, some were built or included full host generators. They all run on fuel. If there's an extended power outage, you run out of fuel, where do you get it? Even propane generators run out of fuel. So the township should be able to negotiate, if they're all on propane, should be able to negotiate propane contract or contract with a propane supplier that will be able to supply these all during an extended emergency. And having been through emergency, this is exactly what happens. You shut ambulances down and you shut down fire trucks and whatever else, and you need a special call to a big supplier to get it. Didn't have a contract in place in the first place. Problem. And you and I, as individual homeowners, aren't going to be able to negotiate that. But as a township, we may have the ability to ensure that we have regular supplies of fuel, especially propane. That's just my point. Councilor Regent?
To just attack onto something Councillor Hoodle said, if you're gonna decide something's an emergency center and you're going to get a generator, then there's all kinds of other stuff that goes with a place being an emergency center. So as much as I appreciate this is in the 2026 budget request, there's more to it than just the cost of a generator. So we might want to tap into the knowledge of our fire chief regarding what else do you need in a hall to make that an emergency center, so that we're looking at the entire picture, not just the generator.
Deputy Mayor?
Another issue is, if we offer this to all three halls, that means Harlow now has to raise $3,500 for the community. Just like Snow Road is done. Plevna now has to raise $3,500 from the community. Is that realistic?
I think it's up to the halls to decide what they want to do. We offer the same thing. We'll install a generator if you pay X amount % of the cost, or the same amount as Snow Road's offered. And we'll put the difference. If they want it, they're happy with what we find, and they raise the money. If they're not happy with it, they're happy with what they've got, so be it. I honestly think you can't do something for one and not offer it to the other two. At the same time, it then becomes what does township want to do as the overall fundraiser. So the first issue is, I'll wait till Roy gets back, but the first issue is, do we want to do this? And secondly, do we just want to consider it for the budget? Or thirdly, do we want to do it now and make the offer to the other halls? When
Well, Wayne's not here to comment, and I know what he'd say. So
I already know, he does not want this, period. He doesn't want any more money spent on any of the halls. He called me, he told me he wouldn't be here, which is very kind of him, and I appreciate it. And he said, I only have one comment about one item, and that's this one. So, surprise, surprise. Councilor Hoodle.
And I don't know if this was mentioned, but if you really want these to be emergency centers, why are we asking volunteer groups to pay for it? It should be coming from the township.
They offered, that's it. But the problem, well, yeah, okay. Snow Roads contributed to the expansion, they contributed to redoing the kitchen, they contributed to redoing the washrooms. They purchased all the chairs in the halls and so on. So, I mean, they're quite an active group. Clare Mill now rivals them as for an active group. And off is in there as well. I don't know what happens at the Coin Hall. I don't know what happens at the Harlow Hall, but I don't. But Corey?
Just throughout the years, all of the hall groups have contributed a ton towards all of the halls. So it's not just one that's done this. They have all done it over the years, a huge contribution. So it's yeah, and it's always been kind of, we've always considered it a partnership. And they've all been great. They've all been, you know, fundraising. They all have been excellent. So yeah, it's not unusual to see a group offer this type of thing, whether it be for a generator or a new oven or anything, an expansion, or so it's just kind of, this is often what they're working towards. They do fundraising and they often like to work towards improvements to the hall, which could be a generator as well.
Deputy Mayor.
I'm gonna suggest that we defer this to the 2026 budget and ask Plevna and Harlow if they would like to contribute $3,500 to the installation of a permanent generator in each of their two halls.
You're adding something to the actual motion. The motion only refers to Snow Road. So is that an amendment or other something? And if we turn that down, do we have the right then to come back and I gotta get the secret and actually say we want to spend this now? That's no relevant offer to the other two. Which one comes first? Then, okay.
So could we add something? I mean, I would like to hear from the fire chief if this isn't even needed, like the emergency center.
Deputy Mayor.
Well, I'm not linking it to the emergency. I'm just saying, here's an opportunity. You raise $3,500, we'll give you a permanent generator. Forget the emergency.
Okay, so you want to take the emergency?
You have to look at the kitchen, the water supply and everything else. And like the kitchen facility in Snow Road is all redone. But apparently it's not a commercial kitchen, so there are issues regarding whether it can be used as an emergency generator. There are no cots there. No, there are no showers. At one time, there was talk of closing that hall right down and using the Snowmobile Club, which is just by the Lanark thing, which is set up. This is set, but people who use this hall have asked for it, so they can continue their programming and so on and provide some sort of comfort in the summer and the winter to the power bill, whatever. Councilor Ballard.
During the ice storm back in '98, I guess it was, Snow Road Hall was the center in Snow Road for people to go to at that time. But it's located in Lanark Highlands. And we need to have a
Snow
hall.
Road Community Center.
Snow Road Snowmobile Club, I'm sorry, yeah. Snow Road Snowmobile Club it's very prominent and it was really needed at the time. We could have another emergency like that, but I don't know if they could handle that. I think if we had the community center set up for the same sort of thing, it would be beneficial.
So there's several discussions on the table here. So what do we do first?
So if anyone wants to amend the motion on the table, that needs to be brought up in the seconder. Then you would vote on that. That one would be added or removed. Then you can vote on what's left or make another amendment. So,
Read the amendment.
so I have your proposed amendment that the manager community development asked the Clare Mill volunteers and the Harlow volunteers for a cost share for a permanent generator with each group providing $3,500. And the motion still says, and this will be considered in the 2026 budget.
I just could put a wrinkle into it. the Clare Mill is a bigger facility than the Snow Road, so they'll need a bigger generator, so it's proportioned the same. It doesn't matter, well, it does matter, it's a lot of money.
Well, I had percentage of 20-some% or whatever it is. So, or 30%. So it was 13.5, and they're putting up that 30% of that is about $4,000, or 33% of 30%. Councilor Regent?
Just to be clear, we're taking out that these are being used as emergency centers. Because we have to be very careful if that's what we're going to call them.
They're not equipped to be full-blown emergency centers. They are not. And truth is, we can continue to operate them exactly as they are. But there are certain things which we're relying more and more on locals to look after their own well-being and so on. So they go to the hall, emergency, if there's no generator, because that generator is supplying something somewhere else. So they offered, I wasn't part of this. Greg got our Councilor Fowler got the original application for this. And I did talk to the president later, and basically they wanted to see this, so they're going to put some of them on the application. Right, Maurice?
What if we put some direction on if we're looking at them to explore it a bit, besides the generators, what we do, stuff like that, and then bring us back further information for consideration. Would that help? It's a hard one for sure.
Councilor Fowler, can you live with that? Other councilors? Okay, well. It ends up being about a $30,000 hit. And if Clare Mills electric heat too, right? No? It's what?
It's propane furnace.
How's Harlow heated? You know?
Oil, still oil, and heat pump.
Adam's been turning it down to make sure everybody stays the same temperature.
So the motion has been amended to be it resolved that council receives for information the email from the Snow Road Community Association for the generator. And that the manager of community development advised that the former fire chief was unsuccessful for the grant for the installation, and the estimated cost at that time was $13,650. The council instructs the manager of community development and director of emergency services fire chief to review this request as well as including Harlow and Clare Mill halls and provide information to council at an upcoming meeting.
Do we want to be more specific about what information we want? We'll just leave it to Brooke and fire chiefs and decide. Okay, how big a generator? That's the cost. And where do you put it? Well, that's, yeah, anybody that's. Okay, do we have a first and a second for that, right? Councilor Regent and Councilor Hoover, are you happy with this? Any final comments? In favor of this motion? That motion is carried, amended. Okay. Item B2, John Inglis, resident donation for use at Clare Mill Hall, for benches for use at Clare Mill Hall.
Moved by Counselor Regent, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the email dated January 22nd, 2025 from John Ingalls wanting to donate 3 wooden benches for the Claremont Hall. The council thanks Mr. Ingalls for the generous donation of 3 wooden benches to be used at the hall.
Any comments on this? I have a comment. That isn't the question. I have no question about how well they're built or whatever. What's the maintenance cost of these things?
No mate.
Are they painted or are they just? The reason I asked is because when we try to put chairs into the snow road hall, these are the questions that we're asking. We're paying for it all. So I mean, it's, lesson learned, I guess. Okay. Anybody in favor or everybody in favor of this? Or how are we going to favor? Thanks, John. Okay. CAO complaint files 2024 annual complaint. Annual report, sorry.
Moved by Counselor Regent, second by Counselor Hudel. Be resolved that council receives the Chief Administrative Officer's administrative report entitled Confidential Complaint Files 2024 Annual Report for information purposes.
Comments? In favor? Carry. 11B, Shore Road Allowance Application for Approval in Principle, Williams.
Moved by Counselor Regent, second by Counselor Hudel. Be resolved, the council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Shore Road Allowance Application for Approval of Principal Williams. The council approves in principle the application to close, stop up and sell the Shore Road Allowance as described as part of the Shore Road Allowance lying adjacent to Lot 277, Plan 1044, Geographic Township of Barrie, on cash shown as Part 3 on Registered Plan 13R 22146.
Comments? In favor? Carry. Item 11C, update to the township's policy for sale and disposition of land, the bylaw.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Updates to the Township's Policy for Sale and Disposition of Land bylaw, and that council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to adopt the updated policy and repeal bylaw 2023.
Comments? Deputy Mayor,
I was noticing that the northern boundary of this property is a concession, is a concession road allowance. What would happen in the future if, for example, we wanted to put solar panels on half of that concession road allowance? Would this affect the township's ability to use that to close up half that road allowance?
I'm not familiar with the actual location, and I guess just the principle, maybe the clerk could comment on it, planning manager.
So, I mean, the municipality owns the road allowances, so, I mean, we can use them. I think there would have to be some consideration of blocking access, just like you would with if we're selling it to someone for private land. But if no one's using the access and it's not blocking anybody, that would be a council decision on how to use township property.
In this case, there would be lots, privately owned back lots behind this property that would become inaccessible through that road allowance. So that would all have to be considered.
I would recommend the council consider all of that. I mean, there are other options of providing a different access. So even for a private sale, sometimes there's that option because they have a building there. We can look at putting an access on the person's property and selling them the road allowance. So there are to deal with extenuating circumstances, and we've seen that here. So it could be something similar to that, but you'd have to look at the details and the access and things like that.
any other comments? In favor? Carried. Item D, change to provincial ambulance dispatch protocol.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved, the council receives the Director of Emergency Service Fire Chief's administrative report entitled changes to provincial ambulance dispatch protocol, transition from dispatch priority card index version 2 to the medical priority dispatch system for information purposes. The council directs the Director of Emergency Services Fire Chief to monitor medical response services in North Frontenac and provide an update, including any recommendations at a future council meeting.
Comments? Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to hear what the mayor has to comment about this, because either you or Councillor Fowler on county council would have already heard a lot about this.
Yeah, I was gonna put that in my verbal report, if you don't mind. Okay, in reality, it isn't gonna matter how they code the ambulances. It's the fact that the ambulance is not gonna get to you as fast if you don't have an urgent issue. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes, okay? But I agree. And furthermore, if you want, I can have the chief of paramedics come and give us a presentation. Because I've had a personal one with him, and it was just phenomenal, because you begin to understand what's happening here. Okay, so, in favor? Carried. Okay, item 11E. Community Hall UV system in Ontario.
Moved by Councillor Hudel, second by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the Manager of Community Development's administrative report entitled the UV System at Offutt Community Hall and Fire Hall. The council instructs the treasurer to transfer the UV system cost of $6,000 and $6,016 plus HST from the Community Hall Sustainability TCA Reserve Fund.
Councillor Hudel.
So I'm glad that you already prepared this. How did we find out when there was a scheduled maintenance? That's how we found it wasn't working. So we have it's not a smart system that lets you know that it's not working anymore.
Yeah, so they are checked on a regular basis by staff and also our health and safety committee. But there isn't any kind of a ping that sends out saying, in this particular case, at the time of the annual service, the water was still being treated, so we weren't going untreated. But there's no hard and fast rule for if it dies right now, we're not going to know. There's an alarm that goes off, so if in this case, if firefighters are in there, they may hear it.
Correct.
So just to add to Brooke, so there's lights on them, there's green, red, yellow, stuff like that. So when staff are in there, they're constantly checking to make sure but she's right, there is an alarm and it's loud. So if there's any issue at all, and that could just be as much as a dirty bulb, the alarm is going off and people hear it. I mean, if, back when I did Brooke's position, I sometimes would have people call me and say, there's a sound coming from the basement, and we go right out and sure enough, that's what it is, and we kind of do what we have to do. So typically when that happens, we'll contact the plumbers right quickly to come and have them come and look at it, but we'll also kind of put up notice not to drink the water and provide bottled water, stuff like that. So it really is all kind of, it's not something that's, just left and we find out a month later. It's something that typically we know fairly quickly if there's an issue.
Any other comments? Seeing none, in favor of the resolution? Carried. Okay, development of a rental agreement with the First Resource Management Group, Masna-Lanark Fourth, for rental of office space at the Barrie Community Hall.
Moved by Councillor Herber, second by Councillor Hudel. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the Manager of Community Development's administrative report entitled Rental Agreement with the First Resource Management Group Incorporated for rental of office space at the Barrie Community Hall. The council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement with the First Resource Management Group Incorporated.
Comments? Deputy Mayor.
What are they doing after the end of this year? Have you any idea? Are they going to vacate or what?
They're unsure at this point. I think they are moving to a more virtual workspace. So at this time, they've committed till the end of the year, but as far as what the future holds, I'm not sure. That they're not sure either.
So we could end up in 2026 with a vacant space that we have to heat and maintain. And would we be looking for another tenant, or would we take that over for the township?
Yeah, it's something to consider at that time. It could happen in 2026. At that time, I'd bring you guys a report and give you some recommendations. Maybe rent it to another place, maybe use it in-house. I mean, there could be several different options.
So given that we're only looking at theoretically 11 months as of tomorrow morning, why don't we just go month to month? Why do we need a whole lease? Or is that just to protect us? Or the existing lease would still be in force, but they could leave any given time. This way, I guess we hold them until the end of December. Was there any thought to that? Any discussion?
There wasn't any discussion. They agreed to the end of the year.
Any other comments? In favor of the motion? Carried. Okay, Community Improvement Plan Information Report.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Harmer. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Manager, Community Development's Administrative Report entitled Community Improvement Plan Information Report. The council directs the Manager, Community Development to work with the County of Frontenac Planners and Economic Development Task Force on a CIP amendment for council's consideration to come into place January 1st, 2026.
Any comments? Deputy Mayor.
What's the initiative for this? Is it just time is up? It's time to rethink the parameters of this? Where did this come from?
Not necessarily. It's not on a particular time frame. It was mentioned in our strategic plan that we would enhance the CIP. There's been comments throughout the years, just regarding the different programs. Maybe there's something new we can do. Also how we receive applications on a first come, first serve. Maybe we can change that. Being that we're more limited in funding, looking at different ways that we can maybe spread the wealth around a bit more. There's just different options to look into to best serve our businesses with the funding that we have.
Any other comments? Deputy Mayor.
Again, an idea came out of our last environmental task force meeting that maybe the CIP could include energy upgrades to businesses. Now we're looking at needing more money, not less.
Okay, anybody else? Because my thought is this shouldn't be here. This particular program is on life support and it's come up twice. And I've cast the deciding vote twice in favor of keeping it. So why poke the bear? It is going to cost us money at the county level, although it's spread over 3 years. We still have to do it. The program is only $15,000. So what is so important about what are we going to gain by spending money and staff time to rejig the program if we do it at all? It is functioning, maybe not as well as it could be. But why would we spend money to make a $15,000 program more valuable? And then come December, when it's on the table, it only takes one counselor not to be here, depending who it is, and that vote will go 3-3, and this program will disappear. It's bad enough as it is, but I just don't want to have the argument, well, we spent this kind of money on it to make this thing a little bit better, and what are we gaining? So I don't want to poke the bear. That's my opinion. Councilor Regent.
So I'm not really sure why. So, okay, let me take a step back here. So this program is not being handled correctly. There's a few of us who actually think this is important. I think this is something that is excruciatingly important for this township. So, and I'm a bit concerned that we're already forecasting that this is going to be a no-go later in the year when it's only January 31st. So is the point of this, Brooke, to make sure that we're doing this program correctly and we have enough money? Is that the general idea that the task force discussed?
Yeah, so yeah, the purpose is just to review, revamp, and make the program work better within the
Right.
funds that we have.
Right, because it's actually not enough money. So I'm not sure why we're already deciding that maybe this isn't worth it down the road.
First of all, I really want to object to that because I never said this program was going to die. I said it just takes one counselor not to be here. And that would be that would be a 3-3 vote. You voted yes, I voted yes. I think Deputy Mayor voted yes, and I think Councilor Hudel voted yes. If one of us is not here, the program dies. I don't want that to happen. That would be a 3-3 vote. So there was somebody else had their hand up first, then the deputy mayor. Sorry, go ahead, John.
This was originally funded at $70,000 by the county, and there was a reason for that. And I think the best thing might be to lobby for future and continued county support on this thing. We're getting no support from the county right now on this, and we have a very innovative CIP, the only one that's focused entirely on business. It was recognized when it was created that it was innovative. I think the county should step up, and I'd like you two guys to lobby for that.
There is no appetite for that at the county level, but we can do that. What I would like to see is this program left alone, and you alluded to it, is that we create another program, this would be at the budget time, that we would do energy improvements. We could put, so was at a restaurant in Ottawa, it was Harvey's and the Saint Hubert, and outside is a level 2 charger with a 30-minute time limit on it. Plug in your car, go in, 30 minutes for food, come back out, your car's got another 10 or 20% on it or whatever else, and away you go. What a great idea. What are we doing to create that sort of thing? We got 2 level 3 charges coming here, wonderful. What are we doing to enhance other areas of the township? You know, the Economic Development Committee can be looking at this. I don't have an answer for it, but there are so many opportunities, and this township is so geographically large. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here. Councilor Regent.
The point of this program is to help the businesses in this township. And I fully appreciate and agree with Deputy Mayor, our Deputy Mayor's comment about maybe some support from the county would be appreciated. I don't think there is an appetite for some of this from the people sitting here. I think there should be. And I'm certainly not just going to let this go.
Deputy Mayor.
Well, the question is whether we should spend staff time on modifying it, given that it is on quote life support. And I agree, it's kind of on life support. I'd like to see it supported heavily. I'm kind of in agreement with you, Mr. Mayor, that it's maybe not worth spending a lot of staff time modifying something that is underfunded to start with.
That was my point, and I don't want to see this program die. So, you know, we have a chance to relook at it come the fall. When we do the 26 budgets, maybe we can increase the funding there. And is there some things that we can do within the existing framework to improve how we award dollars and cents? I mean, there is a finite number of actual businesses. I know, but look, we applied for 2 large $500,000 grants, and we didn't get them. And there was billions of dollars set aside. The ask for one was in excess of $1 trillion. We didn't get it. So just so you drop that down to a $15,000 program, you make an application, you get it or you don't get it. That's simple. That's how it works. Corey.
So typically a CIP, if you're making changes to it, would require public consultation and a public meeting. So it's hard, we can't just go and say tomorrow we'd like, we can't just bring back recommendations and say we'd like to, I don't know, include energy efficiency projects to this without doing it. So it has to go through a process. So that's the thing. If you want to keep it the same, and that's what you decide, that's okay for sure. But if you decide you just want changes to it, then there's a process that it has to go through. So that's why we didn't just come back with some recommendations for change.
Can we create another program without having to go through all that? Like we create it in-house. Sarah's going, no. Municipal Act, right? Okay. All right.
So what the CIP does is it created an opportunity for the municipality to work with businesses and provide them with funding for things without the bonusing legislation applying. So that's kind of why we brought the CIP into place at the time. So that's, again, we can't just give businesses money. It has to go through a CIP that way. So that's why it's set up.
Okay. I was just thinking maybe we could, Councilor
Um, so how much time and money will this take?
I could defer that question to Tara, it's gonna be more on the planning staff. I think on my part, it's not gonna be a whole lot other than planning staff.
So it won't take a lot of time. It'll depend on the amount of changes and the changes that council wants. If you're looking at a whole new program, then it would take more time, obviously. If you're just looking at changing it from a $5,000 allocation to 3 with the budget that you have, to 3 businesses to 2,500 for 6 businesses, then that's going to take way less time. So it just depends on what the flavor is from the public, the task force, of what the changes they want. What the planners will do is, because it falls under the Planning Act, they will host an open house if required, a public meeting, which is required, and they will draft up the policy. So again, it depends on what kind of changes you're looking at.
Is there a cost?
So we pay the planners hourly. And then that goes into a percentage and it's paid out over 3 years. So yes, there is a cost for the work the planners do. The more work done by Brooke and the EDTF and in-house planning people, the less cost to the county, but staff is still needs to be paid.
So I guess this goes to the mayor's point. It's $15,000 program. Is it worth spending this money and time?
Councilor Hermer?
Well, the name itself explains it. It's just community. So if you're gonna use that wording, then that means everyone, not just business.
Well, okay, is it possible to recreate or to create a new plan? So that we'll be ready for the fall, that we all get behind, we toss the CIP out, incorporate the most or some of the points that's already in it into a new program, and we add some things like energy and so on to make it a bigger, more encompassing program. Is that a reasonable possibility? Corey?
It is, but you have to go through the process, right?
I-
So it's
I got it.
Yeah, so that's
But that
that's
also
what you
means,
decide.
that also means, Counselor, more dollars. Counselor Regent.
I don't know why I don't know why we're adding another program or replacing this program. It's a perfectly good program. It just doesn't have enough money in it. And community improvement has nothing to do with residential properties. This is businesses. The businesses in this township know that. And the fact of the matter is, there's not enough money in this project to help the people that we need to help. I don't know why we're talking about replacing this with something else. We have something that we just need to make it better.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I'm not sure that adding an energy component. It's not going to improve the funding though. Funding still has to get through this council. And the opposition is not going to change because we add a new element. So I guess what it comes down to is I'm happy with the plan as it exists. I just wish it was funded a bit better. I'm not really in favor of rejigging it.
All right. Any other final comments? Okay, in favor of the motion.
Motion
Please.
directs the manager of community development to work with the County of Frontenac planners and the EDTF on a CIP amendment for council's consideration to come into place January 1st, 2026.
In favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion is defeated. Okay, community hall rentals, new online booking system, item H.
Moved by Councillor Herbert, second by Councillor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the manager of community development's administrative report entitled Community Hall Rentals New Online Booking System Update.
Any comments? Is Alpha happy? Okay, that's all. I watched the video and I'm, okay. Any other comments? Deputy Mayor?
I think this just reemphasizes how different each hall is from each other hall. Like we have 5 separate communities here. Were you around when Bud Clayton tried to centralize? Corey was. That was That was a debacle. It was an idea that just did not fly. And it's still the case, I think. We've got, it seems to me from this report, Brooke, that Harlow is having the hardest time right now. Is that the case?
Not particularly. I think there's one member that's having a really hard time with the change, very similar to AMPA, but in the overall grand scheme of things, everybody is relatively happy. They don't use computers or the internet, so they have to book in a different way. And they seem to be happy. The majority seem to be happy with us, and same with AMPA.
Well, this has been a wonderful opportunity for you to reacquaint yourself very intimately with all of the associations.
Any other comments? In favor of the resolution? Carried. Okay, let's take a break to 10 to 11. Welcome back, everyone. We're starting with the item 11I, Boundary Road Bylaw and Agreement with Matachewan Road. Watson Road, sorry.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's Administrative Report entitled Boundary Road Bylaw and Agreement, Matachewan Road, and that the Township of North Frontenac acknowledges that Matachewan Road from civic address number 1654 to 2321, being a length of 3.1 kilometers, is a road having joint jurisdiction between the Township of Greater Madawaska and the Township of North Frontenac. And that Section 29 of the Municipal Act states that municipalities on either side of a boundary line have joint jurisdiction over any highways forming the boundary line, and that Section 27(2) of the Municipal Act requires municipalities to pass bylaws in respect of highways for which they share joint jurisdiction, and that a bylaw will be presented later in the meeting for council consideration, addressing the joint jurisdiction section of Matachewan Road and a maintenance agreement for the Township of Greater Madawaska.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. Darwin, you're up. Update regarding Arco Road Bridge and Pine Lake Culvert.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives the Public Works Manager's Administrative Report entitled Update regarding Arco Road Bridge and Pine Lake Culvert Funding Request for information purposes. The council approves the proposed staging plan, intermittent closures for the Arco Road Bridge rehabilitation, and that council approve the proposed closure plan for the Pine Lake Culvert replacement on Arctic Road. And the council approve a sole source consultant assignment for the Greer Galloway Group to provide engineering services for the Pine Lake Culvert replacement. The council approved funding for the Pine Lake Culvert replacement to be transferred from the Infrastructure Sustainability Tangible Capital Asset Reserve Fund with a projected year-end balance per the 2025 approved budget of $2,053,658.
Darwin, you want to add anything or give us a brief overview of this, where we stand?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I wouldn't have normally brought forward staging plans for these types of projects, but both of them are so unique given the impacts of the detours and closures. But our call, is a busy road servicing residents, cottages, campsites, the operating mine. And there's really no feasible detour. And widening or providing a temporary bridge, any alternative there to increase capacity was just prohibitively expensive. So the consultant has developed this plan with, it's concrete exposed deck with concrete repairs, not a full overlay. Where with some protective measures and staged closures and fast setting, like a proprietary concrete product, that we can make this work. But there will be impacts, and I think the key is just communications and set timeframes that they're well publicized and everybody knows when it's going to be open and closed and what the duration will be. The other option was night work, but you'd have the same issues plus, impacts with noise and production and quality. So that was our call. Our call's on the program yet for this season, and consultant doing the design, really just waiting to hear on this staging decision, and then they can deliver that yet this season. Pine Lake culvert, different situation, but a really deep fill, a really large culvert. It's in a rock fill. It's really difficult to stage that. The other option there would be a widening on the downstream side and have like a single lane detour, but it's just given the depth and the adjacent rock cut, and and the grade is climbing again. That would be it would be really expensive. It would only be single lane, and it probably wouldn't accommodate anything more than passenger vehicles. So we have experience doing this with some other culverts. We did one between Snow Road and Mississippi a few years ago. It was deep, a smaller pipe, and I think we did that in like 7 hours. So I think the idea here is that the full closure really put some incentives on doing it as quick as possible, as short a time frame as possible, and then some penalties if they don't achieve that. Reusing the material that we can, and just really minimize the length of time that the detour is in service. When I mention 48 hours, it's probably another day beyond that, but it is just to get a single lane open. It isn't finished, done, and filled up to final grade with 2 lanes open. That the idea there, it's the new pipes in. There's enough material put back in, allow it to get a single lane open on one side, and then you start staging and bring it up. So it isn't a cheap culvert, that's for sure.
Councilor Hoodle. Thurman, you had mentioned previously that for Pine Lake, there might be a possibility of using a grout system instead of digging. That was not the case, I'm guessing.
Yeah, we reviewed that closer. It would be a smaller liner, and there was big money in the grout, but I would say the real deciding factor is kind of reached the point. It just isn't. That culvert has essentially failed, but it's stable and it's being monitored. And there were concerns with having to work in there, to be honest with you. So.
Yeah. And I guess my other question, sorry, Jerry. Is there a possibility to replace this culvert in 24, like make them work 24 hours to limit the detour time?
I don't think so. I think the 48 is optimistic, just given the depth.
No, I'm not saying in 24 hours. I'm saying having them working 24 hours, like having 2 shifts.
Yeah, certainly. What the 48 is based on 24 hours around the clock operation and sufficient equipment to do that. It isn't just a contractor with one excavator sitting there moving rock. It's a lot of resources on it, and for a 24-hour operation.
And no room and open water. Deputy Mayor.
So communication is the big issue here. You propose to put up road signage the way South Front or Central did when they worked at Creek down there? Like in case nobody gets on the internet and reads about it.
Yeah, no, definitely, like Ardoc Road and 506, the signage at all the main intersections and the detour well signed, and signs up in advance, so announcing it a few weeks ahead of time, not 2 days before. And then for those that are online or have access, just real-time updates, and on both these jobs, I think communication is the key.
Mr. Fowler.
Yeah, the Arco Road location, would you have to adjust the dam? Would there be any work done on that dam that runs alongside the road?
No, when the Arco Road project started, and DM Wills out of Peterborough are doing our component of it. And at the same time, they were successful with Ministry of Natural Resources. And they were going to rehab and work on the dam, and the two projects were going to go simultaneously. They've since deferred their project at least 3 years. So we won't be doing anything with the dam itself. We'll be doing the deck surface, work on the abutments, and then new barriers that meet the code. But we won't be doing anything with the dam, the hardware or the mechanism to work the blocks or any of M&R's components. And the same thing when they're back in a few years, where they're upgrading their hardware. They won't be working on the roadway side of the bridge or our components at all.
And the total cost is, for both these projects is estimated about $2 million. No.
No, it's, our call is about 350,000 and the Pine Lake culvert's about 530,000, and that includes the engineering.
The 2 million was the amount in the reserve fund.
Know that now.
Is there anybody else? Certainly, go ahead, Corey.
We applied for funding, I think, Adam, for signage, some light up signage. Did we get that? Have we heard back from that one yet? The reason I'm asking is because that would be really crucial for us with this, either one of these projects to kind of get the word out. Did we get that grant?
We haven't heard anything
Okay.
as of now.
Okay, so Central Frontenac could we talk to Central and see if we could borrow theirs for a week or something, Darwin, if we get there, or?
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay.
Worst case, you can always rent those.
Okay,
But I just hate to, put the rent into something that could go towards purchasing.
right,
But,
for sure.
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I'm sorry, I guess the other thing I can add, it could be part of the contract that the contractor supplies them. Their signage provisions could include that.
So my only concern is I think all of us are being a rock and a hard place on this, literally. And there was open water at the bottom of that Pine Lake culvert this morning on the Pine Lake side. So there's currents through there, obviously. What about fire and ambulance protection on the northeast side of the Arco Road Bridge? Like once we're across Arco Road, that bridge is shut down. And you have to bring in the fire truck. There's no other way around it, or?
There's no other way around it. The consultant just looking at maps thought, that going around by Granite Lake and out by Mosk Lake was an option. And I said, no, it's not. So it's a matter of working with fire chief and other emergency services. And what they could always station something on the opposite side of the bridge, but my preferred solution is worst case scenario. I've mentioned in the report, we have these deck plates. Worst case scenario, it's just the time it takes to lay a plate down to cover the area we're working on and make it passable and let them through. I think that's the best response, but we'll work through that.
And my last question is, once the repairs on the deck are done, are you going to waterproof it and asphalt it?
It will be, yeah.
It will be.
It'll be waterproofed and paved.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you. In favor of the motion? Carried. KNP Trail agreement.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the Public Works Manager and Clerk Planning Manager's administrative report entitled KNP Trail Revised Agreement with the County of Frontenac. And the council declares the following pins as surplus and authorizes the mayor and clerk to sign the transfer for the following once prepared by the solicitor. Pin 362090012, 362090030, subject to an easement for access for waste site monitoring, and pin 36209-0231. And the council authorizes the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement as drafted once the transfers noted above are completed.
Any comments? Yeah, I noticed, Darwin, your comment about the cross asphalt or cross surface treatment comments, and I also remember that surface treatment road is 7 years. the lake, so if there is any damage, that will be included, I mean, in our normal maintenance. So I didn't make a lot of issues about this when it came to the county council for that reason. In favor of the resolution? Gary. Okay, external committees, Economic Development Task Force.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the notes of a meeting of the Economic Development Task Force held January 20th, 2025. The council instructs the clerk planning manager to send the April 25th, 2025 North Frontenac Business Dinner and Forum invitation to local MP and MPP on behalf of council and the Economic Development Task Force.
Any comments on this? I have one. And this goes to, I guess, Councilor Region, this head of the task force. The Belleville or Clinton Trade Show, why are we doing Ottawa and Kingston? I mean, like, Ottawa's over 1 million people, Kingston's 130, 140,000, and Belleville's what, 30? It's just,
There's about 46,000 people living in Belleville, but Brooke, you might be able to answer that better than I could.
I don't have an exact reason of why. We were very successful at the Quinty one last year. I would suspect Kingston and Ottawa may also be more cost prohibitive. But I haven't looked into that.
Councilor Hoodle?
Yeah, I remember at one of the meetings I asked, why are we at the Toronto Sportsman Show? It's just costs. It's those bigger cities are really expensive.
We have volunteers running that booth for the township. Cindy's in charge of it. I think she's gonna do a great job from what she's told us. She's got planned, but we don't have the funds to pay for hotel rooms, et cetera, while people go somewhere else, right? I mean.
We have a tremendous number of our seasonal residents come out of the Ottawa area. And I think maybe we could look at what it would cost. Is it a reasonable opportunity? And then if you think it is, it comes to council and we say, yes or no.
I know the Toronto, but it's thousands and thousands of dollars to get a booth there, and it would be pretty close in Ottawa too.
All right, okay. Okay. All right, so any other comments? In favor? Carried. Okay, so anybody wishing to give notice of motion? Councilor Fowler?
Yes, when I was at Roma, I met a group of people that were animal welfare group. They have done up a resolution that they want the municipalities to present to the province regarding the need to restricting and keeping of non-native exotic wild animals. I looked at our North Frontenac bylaw and it is very detailed in this area. One of my big concerns is people, especially people in emergency services, go into somebody's home and they've got one of these animals in there and there's no rules regarding them keeping them and having them. And somebody who's in emergency services could be injured. And so at the next meeting, I'd like to present this resolution and am I back? Okay, all right. And basically, to present this to the province, I was talking to one of the people there and from my family, I do know the person that runs the reptile zoo on Highway 7 near Peterborough. And there was an occasion when a fellow in Toronto phoned the emergency and he said, I need somebody from the zoo to come and find my snake. My snake got out and it was what was called a soft tooth viper, highly toxic venom in this animal. And this other fellow mentioned to me that if anybody got bit by any of these other types of snakes. Their chances in Ontario are very slim because there's only 3 areas where they can get anti-venom. And so I would like to see this go towards the province and the province to be able to beef up their laws because Ontario is one of the worst provinces that look after this sort of thing. And this would include roadside zoos and people keeping all sorts of different exotic animals. So I would like to have this brought up at the next meeting.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives the notice of motion from Counselor Fowler regarding petitioning the provincial government to implement provincial regulations to restrict the possession, breeding, and use of non-native exotic wild animals and licensed zoos. And the council will consider this request at the February 21st, 2025 council meeting.
Carried. Have no motions, council verbal reports. So my report's gonna be a little long, folks. First of all, I'm gonna go through the county stuff and then I'll go through the ward stuff. This is the first time this council will have heard any of the warden stuff because the wardens don't report back to the county council, so we don't know what's happening. Until you actually go there, you have no clue how they actually work or what they're doing and so on. So at the county, Canopy Trail, we just adopted the resolution, but we had discussions on the agreement with North Frontenac. And then we had a long discussion on user fees for the Canopy Trail. And the recognition is that the county of Frontenac really needs help in maintaining it. They don't have the facilities, they don't have the staff or the equipment. So we have an agreement with the Frontenac, what's it? No, Frontenac ATV Club, which is part of the Ontario Federation of ATVs, to maintain the trail, provide trail wardens, and provide us with so much money. Something similar to what we're doing up on the North Frontenac Parklands. We've also directed the county staff to approach the OTA and offer them a similar opportunity. So we'll see what actually comes back. And of course, then there's the actual details and so on. So if you want to pass, you want to ride the trail, you have to get a pass and you'll have to get it through right now through the Frontenac ATV Club. You'll be able to get day passes, weekend passes, annual passes. And that typically runs sometime in April till the 1st of December. So there's that one. The Municipal Service Corporation, we've hired an operator, Clearford Operations, to manage any of the programs that help us deliver and work with the technical committee and the board of directors. We've interviewed as of Monday and Tuesday for the CEO, the part-time position. We've shortlisted, we've interviewed next week. Okay. So that was pretty much it for, hang on. I've got hand scratching everywhere here. Okay, the rest of it come out of Roma and the EOWC. So the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus is one of three groups in the province. You have North, and you have West, and you have East. And it's a pretty formal group. We had the inaugural meeting in Kingston, started on Thursday afternoon and late Thursday morning, sorry, and went all day Friday. They have a strategic plan, and it's just infrastructure, it is housing, it is healthcare, and general financial assistance. You can put it any way you want. So they've collected a lot of information. first is the 13 municipalities in Eastern Ontario, these are all upper tier municipalities, so our upper tier is fine. Spend $403 million a year to keep assets in a good state of repair. And that does not include what we're spending to build new or create additions. Since 2011, the deficit in keeping these facilities up has gone up by 58%. It's now over $6 billion. So the question is, how does a taxpayer afford that? And they can't. So, you know, some municipalities, and this was, maybe I was being a little naive, many municipalities run on the basis of debentures, debt. The 13 municipalities in total pay about $21 million a year in interest. Yeah. So when you owe money, you lose options. So all in the township, we're not doing bad. To tie all this into Roma, which quite frankly was the best conference I've been to in a long, long time. I heard Minister Calandra speak 3 times in a week and a half. And this message is really for Councillor Regent and Deputy Mayor Engels. The message didn't change, and I gather he's a very abrupt sort of individual. So he's the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. He said, if you want anything, tell me what you want, tell me where you want it, tell me how much it's going to cost, tell me why you want it, show me the evidence, and then tell me what you're going to give me in return. If you don't have that there, you go immediately to the bottom of the list. And I don't know what kind of influence or how it works with our other grants and so on, but maybe that's, you know, that's the way they're looking at it. They're just not going to say, here's whatever. Eastern Ontario in the last 2 years has got $200 and some million, 202, I think, for housing and so on. And it's not near enough. And there won't be any more coming until we start following the rule. Now, as of Thursday or 2 days ago, we have an election coming, so Mr. Calandra may not be there, but may have changed. Went to the trade show, and Adam has the stuff. We talked, and Councillor Fowler went as well. We talked to the Fender fire trucks out of Brampton. They were really interesting. And of course, there's the biggest, brightest, reddest, whatever you want to call it. Did take in a workshop on electricity production and storage in Ontario and the need for it. We had a presentation here from somebody from Cunningham and Swan early in 2024. And that particular individual was on the panel. And when she presented to us, she said, the only way that we see this going forward is nuclear. Well, the way it is now, nuclear, solar, wind, biomass, it's all on the table. And I know the environmental committee knows this, but if a proponent wants to do something, they find a landowner, and the comment was many family farms have been saved this way, so that's not that difficult thing to actually do. Here's what we want to do. It then comes to the municipality, and the municipality makes the final decision. So I have asked Roy and the deputy mayor here to go back to the environmental committee and say, can we come up with a resolution to say we're open for business? And then we look at these things as a committee and as a council on a one-off basis. So maybe you don't want battery storage, maybe solar system is fine, or solar panels. No solar on agricultural land, period. That was just right out front. There was absolutely, well, not quite true, almost no mention of affordable housing. If it was in passing. And that's just the way it is. Homelessness, I got some cards here. I thought it was on here, maybe not. There are at 2024, there are 82,000 homeless people that have been documented who built place to live in Western Ontario. That's the size of the city of Peterborough. Within 10 years, it's going to double. So what are they doing about it? And that's what Calandra said. I'm not interested in what you have to say. You can't prove it to me that you need it, and you're not giving me something back in return. And he specifically mentioned on one of his occasions, take out a homeless encampment. You want those gone because it's an optics thing that isn't particularly good for business development. So I found that really interesting. But even the homeless, with us pushing, you know, there's 82,000 people, there wasn't much. They talk about it, but it's kind of in passing. Renfrew County has an absolutely great program with their paramedic services, where they actually work with individuals one-on-one to keep people out of the hospital, to reduce the treatment, but the cost is tremendously high. And there are counselors and staff beginning to say, we can't keep doing this, it's too affordable, or it's not affordable. So we'll see where it actually goes. Now, I promised John to talk about paramedicine. And I can bring in the, actually I've asked, we just have to schedule it, the chief of paramedicine, Mark Gowdy for the county of Frontenac. So at this point in time, the county has commissioned the study and the results are back. We need one new ambulance every year for the next 10 years. An ambulance costs $750,000, including 4 paramedics. It doesn't stop there. Where do you store the ambulances? So now you got to build garages. You got to maintain what you've got. You've got to buy property and so on. And they keep at least 4 spares. We talked earlier in the agenda about a new system of priorities. It doesn't, well, it's important. When you make a call to 911 because you need medical help, they're going to ask you a whole series of additional questions. Right now, they asked you, what do you want, fire, ambulance, police? And they asked you if you want ambulance, how critical. They asked you 3 or 4 questions, and the ambulance dispatched, and they'll call you partway through. It's going to be longer than a certain amount of time. I know this personally. Now they're going to ask you a series of questions because they want to slot you into a priority response, which is fine because it makes best use of the ambulances. But if you're in level 4 or 5, I don't care what color of card they've got or what level of CTAS it is, the response time is 2 hours, 75% of the time. When you're lying on the floor, you're not, you may have a broken bone, you're not bleeding out or whatever else, you could be there for 2 or 3 hours. Can't even help with the ambulance service there. So Frontenac County was also successful in lobbying the Ministry of Health to put money into Kingston General Hospital to help with the offload delays. The ambulances were sitting there because there's no place to put the patient. And that has helped up until the point where the physical space in the hospital is full. New Year's Eve, at one point, there was 3 or 4 ambulances sitting outside Kingston General with all the space inside. They were actually in a circle around the nurse station. It just physically wasn't enough space. And it looks also like the paramedics are going to go through an upgrade. They're going to have to spend more time in school. And a lot of the calls are for people who really don't need an ambulance or just need immediate treatment. And it'll take 2 aspirins, call your doctor in the morning. But paramedics don't tend to be trained to do that. They're trained to handle emergencies, and they do that really well. So they're going to, it looks like they're going to, or they're considering, and once again, we have an election, expand the knowledge base for paramedics. Paramedics will start making better judgment calls. And before I leave that, the ambulances, the province pays 50%. So that's 750,000. Province pays 275. But they pay 1 year in arrears. So that means it's really only 43%. And the remaining 50 or 57%, we split that with the city of Kingston because most of the ambulances are there. 89% of the calls are in the city of Kingston, and they're only paying 80% of the bill. They're getting a deal right now. That's what we're facing. Every one of us is facing. So if you have to make an ambulance call, be as accurate as you can. But that's what we're all up against. That's not going to change. So. That's pretty much it. Anybody have any questions?
Thanks for the detailed presentation.
Hey, I only get to do this for 1 year.
Just two comments. You said that you do not report at the county level with your.
Right.
And why not?
I have no idea.
So change it.
I've only had one, yeah,
You can do it, Jerry.
I know.
And then just a quick comment and this whole thing with ATVs and trail passes and is there any talk at any level that you're in about, making, one pass?
March 25th, it was to be on the floor of Parliament in Ottawa, sorry, in Toronto. Well, we have an election, so it won't be there. And there was also a new Integrity Act, which was going to be much tougher on us and on people who come in to present to us and so on. That was supposed to be, it was introduced, it died as well. So. We're really back to your first point. I really don't know why. I was totally surprised. I had no idea what to expect. The amount of time is tremendous. And at Roma, we did delegations. We went to the NDP caucus. And we talked about working across the border with the Americans. The whole conference got hijacked by Trump tariffs, literally. We talked about housing, and they just said, the 13 municipalities in Eastern Ontario have a land bank. We put together a list of all kinds of properties that are available. Some are zoned ready to go, some are almost ready, some could be made ready. So the NDP asked about that. We didn't get to healthcare. They cut us off and said, thank you very much, and then spent the next 5 minutes talking about why we should vote for them. Took a picture and out the door. Then we went to the Liberals, and you remember, EOWC represents 1 million people, not including the city of Ottawa. And 103 municipalities, and Bonnie Crombie wasn't there. So we talked about, you have this land available, we're willing to donate it, we need an influx of capital to help build housing. And they said, if you have the land available, just auction it off and let the developers build it. Now, in the case of the NDP, 40 minutes later, we're in this closing plenary, and here's Mara Stiles talking about bringing housing back, social housing back into the central government. So you can kind of see her point. The Liberals were really disappointing. And when we talked to Minister Surma for infrastructure, she was really interested in it and then kind of let it go. And we talked about Municipal Service Corporation. And when we were talking to the ministers and other members of parliament, they were really in favor of this. At one point, Calandra said, look, this is a great system. Frontenac is the lead on this. The rest of you have a whole bunch of roadblocks you're putting up. Get over it, figure out how to do it, and let's get on with it. So we really hit the idea that the Ministry of Environment and their approvals is slowing everything down. And then MPP John Jordan said, Jerry, they really get this. They want this to go. But everything has changed and we won't know what happens with February 27th. So it is what it is. So that's it. Okay. So the next one is. Wayne's not here. Councillor Regent.
So I have a board meeting Monday with my Lakelands Family Health team. And I've not received a single update about anything from the social services area of my portfolio. Obviously nothing for the lakes, and the OPP stuff is very confidential. So Corey and I will be at the next meeting, but it's pretty minimal what can be shared. So I have been in touch with all of my lake associations though over the last couple months in anticipation of the summer and some of their concerns and their questions. So the communication has certainly not dropped, even though most of them are not here.
Okay. Anything else? You're good? Okay. Counselor Hoodle.
Yeah, I have no updates.
Okay. Counselor Hermer.
Nothing.
Okay. Counselor Fowler.
Yes, Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance, we have a meeting coming up on February 13th. I plan to attend that. Seniors and law enforcement together, last Friday at Snow Road, we had the fire department attend, and we had a very, very good meeting, and it was about fire safety. We did have the chief and the deputy chief and a couple other people as well. And it was a really good session, and everybody really loved it, and there was a lot of food for everybody, and they ate it all.
You didn't get to take any home, in other words.
Anyway, we're going to have another meeting at Snow Road on May 23rd. And it's going to be, the topic again, it's going to be with the fire department. It's going to be the wildfires. So we're looking forward to that as well. There are going to be a few others. I don't have the information. There might be one more in North Frontenac. I don't have that information.
The SALT presentation, I attended it, and it was really good. Jackie did a great job, and Adam and AJ were there to support her. Like talking about battery fires and like batteries and computers, battery chargers and so on. It was really interesting. Deputy Mayor.
Nothing to report, but I just want to comment on the new ambulance structuring and triaging, which seems to me is going to make our local first response even more important than it already is.
It really is. It would be really nice to be able to set an ambulance right up here in Pleasant for the summer. And we have to put one on Wolf Island. But the problem is, first call that ambulance goes, it doesn't come back because the demand is so great elsewhere. If it's sit like the one in Snow Road is probably there a quarter of the time. And it can be there at 3 o'clock and gone at 3:30 and not come back till 6 or 8 o'clock. It's the nearest ambulance response. Okay. So we've got introduction and reading and bylaws.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Councillor Hudel. Be it resolved that leave be given to the mover to introduce the following bylaws that have been circulated to all members of council. Bylaw 2025-04, policy for the sale of disposition of land. 2025-05, to sign the agreement with Greater Madawaska for the Matawachin Road. And 2025-06, to sign the lease agreement with the Frontenac Resource Management Group. And that these bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. Okay. Is that couple out there? So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. and Mrs. McLear. Mr. and Mrs. McLear. Thank you for waiting around. Typically during a presentation, we don't entertain comments or whatever, but there is a public forum, which is this section. Now, if you have a comment you want to make, now's the time to do it. Okay. Yes, within reason, yes.
Did the township ever sign a non-disclosure agreement with Rogers on the location of towers?
I don't. Corey?
No, the only aspect that the township would have got involved with, you know, the LUA that I've provided you, that's it. That's all that we would have been involved with. The others that would be up to Rogers and the property owner. That's it.
Okay, so he may have signed a non-disclosure agreement.
It's possible.
If possible, yeah.
Did you, Mr. Lichty, when you?
My name is on no lease.
Okay.
But just so you don't go away thinking I'm trying to mess with you. Property is on my wife's name and my sister's name, and they did not sign a non-disclosure agreement. It wasn't on.
Okay.
And ours is not.
I know when the wind turbines went through, they were having people sign non-disclosure agreements. No, I just wondered if it was
No,
the
it's,
same.
it's a private lease.
Okay,
it's a
so,
Private, it's a private business deal.
Yeah. Well, so are the wind turbines.
Oh, okay.
No, just when, I don't know if you guys know where I live in regards to 8660, but I live right across the road. And in the summer of 2022, I saw a civic number going up in the corner, at that corner of the road. Across the road, it's 2328 Matawatchin Road. So in 2022, June, you people must have granted an entrance permit for that civic number. Is that correct? Probably.
I'd have to review it, or if there was an
Yeah,
existing.
but if you
entrance
put up
and
a
then
civic
request-
number, it's because there's been an entrance permit.
Well, it could have been an existing entrance and.
There's an unopened road allowance there, but it's because someone requests a civic number, right?
That's right.
And it was probably Rogers. Is
No.
2328 going to be the civic number for this tower, 8660?
It would have been the.
Anyways, so if the lease was signed in 2022 and an entrance permit was granted in order to get a civic number, why did it take till October 7th, 2023 for Tara to email our township and ask for the mailing addresses of the adjacent landowners?
It may be that the two of them are not connected. The tower on Snow Road does not have a civic number.
So you know when the lease was signed.
I know when the lease for the property next door.
It may or may not be. So it may or may not be connected. So my question is, if the Rogers knew they were building there in 2022, you would have known as well. And on October 7th, you requested the mailing addresses of October 7th, not 2022, 2023. You requested the mailing addresses of the adjacent land. On November 15th, 2023, you did the land use authority recommendation report was published. That's the date on that report. And on December 13, 2023, municipal statement of concurrence was written out. So in the course of 2 months, you get adjacent property land mailing addresses. You get the land use authority recommendation report, which we've talked about before, which has falsehoods in it. And on December 15th, you write your statement of concurrence. In the course of 2 months and 1 week, you go through everything that needs to be done. But you waited 15 months knowing that tower was going in and not talking to the adjacent property owners. Why?
No idea. I will tell you, Tower and Snow Road started in 2014 with Rogers. Rogers backed out and another company came in and started in 2019. The tower wasn't up to 2022. And then it was activated.
This isn't Snow Road.
I'm not telling you, this is the timeline that you actually need. And Rogers didn't never ever talk to us. We don't have a contract with them, with the tower owner. In this case, it would be Rogers, but it's all a private business deal, and we will be discussing this in the closed session right after this, and we'll make a decision which way we're going to go. So thank you for your information with regard to the timelines. It's not an easy decision, but we will work through it and we'll let you know.
Oh, if I can interrupt, please, you do need to use a microphone so people online can hear you, please. Thank you.
You didn't hire Krins? Who hired Krins?
Yes, the township hired Krins. That's years ago. I mean, and they've done several projects throughout the township. So again, they were hired I couldn't tell you what year or anything, but they were hired a long time ago by the township and several other municipalities as well, for sure.
Is that a sole source contract?
Again, I have to ask that you please use the microphone.
Was that a sole sourced contract?
I couldn't answer. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. It's something we would have to look back to, but that's a long time ago. I wasn't in this position. So I can't answer that.
It's just that from my point of view, I see the wheels turning against us. And it's people like Prince, third party, zero accountability. Why is that? Why are you using someone who's not accountable in order to do work in your municipality?
So currently, we're not using CRINS anymore. We haven't since, I think we ended our contract with them back in February 20, I think it was last February. We ended our contract with them.
Why?
I've explained that to you before, but it
yeah.
was lack of communication from CRINS at that time. They've done several successful projects before that, but at that time, yes, it was lack of communication. And I've explained that, and council's aware of that too. I've explained that to council as well. So right now, we're set at so right now, there's a default process that I said puts out. And that's the process that council agreed at that time when we ended our contract with CRINS, that we moved to that default process. And so we haven't had any new tower applications. So at this time, if new applications would include the default application by CRINS, and it's fairly, I don't know, it's fairly laid out fairly well as to what the regulations are. Now, also beyond that, townships can come up with if they want to expand that and kind of do their own thing, then they can choose to do that as well, or any land use authority can do that. So we haven't got there yet, but at this time, that's the process that council has approved.
So I'm wondering why, if you terminated CRINS contract, why it wasn't, their work wasn't checked on before you pushed it through. Like nobody thought to check to see if we had been contacted, which we hadn't. And I have provided you with a list of signatures from other adjacent landowners stating that there was no contact.
Yes, you have.
And why would you not insist on some kind of proof? Like why a simple registered letter would have been required and you would have had the proof. Oh yes, here, this shows that Donnie and Margie received this notification. Otherwise, it's like he said, she said, it's not a very efficient way to do business. And I'm just wondering why it didn't occur to your council to check on the work that they had done if other work had been proven to be unsatisfactory.
For you, Mr. Mayor?
Well, I'm going to go first. Having been through this or seen it happen and other municipalities as well, we had no reason not to trust CRINS, because in the past, all of their contracts have been very detailed, or their reports very detailed and whatever. The one in Snow Road had 200 name petition against it. So that was there, and they have to evaluate the tower site against all this and so on. And there was no reason not to trust them. It was only because we lost communication with them.
Well, the lack of communication with them seems to indicate there's cause for concern. Cause enough to terminate the contract.
We're going to discuss this in a closed session. Sorry, anything you want to add?
And your concerns have been taken very seriously. And I know that you're concerned about the communications. Really hard to answer some of those communications. I mean, we have to kind of look at the whole picture. And myself and council, we totally understand you being so upset about this. We really do, and we have not taken that lightly. None of us have. I have not taken that lightly at all. But I do want you to realize that. But I mean, there's a big picture here. There's Rogers who's done contracts with the property owner. So all of that has to be taken into consideration. And I know it's been frustrating for you guys, and it really has, but all of that stuff, council has to know all of the intricacies, all of the information before they can just go out and make a decision and say, you know, this is what we want to do. We want to rescind. We want to do this. It's all kind of, it all pieces together, but it's part of a huge, big picture. So, and I know we've had lots of communications. We've had back and forth, and I understand your frustration. I really do. But I want you to know that we've taken this very seriously, and council's got a lot of information to look at today in their closed session. And we're all taking it very seriously. We understand your concerns in a big way.
I would also like to point out that the 300-meter safety guideline, I tried to go to the website for the safety code 6, is it? It's really difficult. It's got a whole bunch of formulas that you have to work out, but my understanding is that 300 meters is the safe parameter that they're deciding. Is that correct, or?
So again, I've spent quite a bit of time, and it is, you're absolutely right. It's complex. I can't disagree with you at all. So what I've got from that, so what happens is when a proponent puts in an application to ISED, they have to do an acknowledgement that everything is going to meet safety code 6 within that parameter. So Rogers, in this case, so on the LUA, the land use authority that I gave you a copy of, it's Rogers, not Prince. Rogers has to make a statement on there saying that it's going to meet all of safety code 6. And then that goes as part of the stuff to ISED, and then they have to determine whether or not they agree. So yeah, but the township doesn't get to say that it meets safety code 6. It's an acknowledgement by the proponent, and then ISED has to accept that. Yeah, it's complex. It really is.
But the 300-meter is to my front door, and we're on a large property. And as I pointed out, there's gonna be a huge wedge section of my property that is much closer than 300 meters. And am I expected to just not access that area of my property?
So, I talked to you about that. And safety code 6, but when you make a tower application, they want comments from people 3 times the height of the tower. So in this case, 100-meter tower, you go up 300 meters. That's the radius. It's the radiation that comes off a tower. It has to meet certain criteria, and that's the safety code 6. And the code, I tried to read it too. I agree. It's give me a break. It's designed for engineers and people who are experts in the industry and so on. But these towers are also checked periodically as well. I did ask that. So it's just to make sure that they do stay within spec and everything. So we're mixing 2 things here. One is 300 meters says, we're going to talk to you about what your comments are. Do you want the tower? Do you not? If you have issues, tell us what they are. We'll take it under consideration. And then there's the safety aspect, which at the end of the day, quite frankly, is the most important.
And I would like to point out that having spoken to our neighbor which is when we discovered that is what was happening, that was what was going on. And he told us, whether he's being truthful or not, which I think comes into question here. He said he told Rogers they could put it wherever they wanted on his property. And he also said that he wasn't aware of any health concerns whatsoever connected with electromagnetic radiation. And he was just basically saying he thought I was crazy for even being concerned about it because he wasn't. So we'd be really happy. He has 400 acres. We'd be really happy, since he's the one that's going to benefit financially from this, if he could relocate it somewhere where it's not so much in our face and not so close to us, since he doesn't care. But it's unlikely, because Rogers is a corporation, and all corporations care about, and I don't think anybody here would disagree with me, is the bottom line is money. And they've already drilled their core samples, and it's close to the road, and it's close to a power source. So what possible inclination would Rogers have to move it and cost them more money for an installation? They're not going to want to do that. Neither is our neighbor going to want to have it closer to him. He's got it exactly where he wants it, where he can't see it as much, and where it's not close to him. That's where he wants it, and that's where Rogers wants it.
Mr. Herbert?
The point of order here. I know it's extremely important to get these answers, but I think this has gone far beyond the scope of public comment.
Thank you for that. So I was about to say this same thing, what's going on enough. We're gonna take this into account. I did watch the video. I wasn't here last meeting. I apologize for that. But I did watch the video that evening and we've heard you now and we've heard the other proponent or the other homeowner for the other tower. So we'll discuss both of them in closed session. We'll let you know. So thank you for your time. We will send you something this afternoon, let you know what we've done. Okay, thank you for coming in.
Session. Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council retires to closed session at 11:52 a.m. to adopt closed minutes of a meeting held January 10th, 2025, to discuss security of the property of the municipality or local board, and to receive advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose with respect to a public notification process.
Welcome back, everyone.
Moved by Counselor Ingalls, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council requests Yorn circulate consultation documents, and requests Rogers put a pause on further work at the proposed tower at 2216 Matawatchen Road and at 6137 South Levant Road until council receives further information as a result of the consultation.
In favor? Carried. Okay, so what do we want to ask? Lisa's on. So Lisa, this is Jerry Lichty. Do you have any issues with our motion and then the direction we've chosen to follow?
No, that's fine, Your Honor. We will start the process now. We're just finalizing paperwork, etc. So we'll work with staff to ensure that documentation is sent to neighboring landowners, etc., via registered mail. And we have, as I said, we're getting all of that in place now.
Thank you. Roy?
Which landowner is not going to receive this?
The guy that was here?
Can we get it to them?
Yeah, can we include the neighboring house of the Sunday Lake Road one? They're about 400 meters out. It's Joe Clayton and Christine Kearns.
Yes, we've actually had sent the CAO an email around that, and we will be ensuring that they receive correspondence.
On that tower, the people that were here this morning changed their original presentation to more as just being too close to their property. They withdrew a lot of their other issues. So if it's really possible to move that laneway, that would really help things go a long way for everybody.
We've already been in contact with our Rogers colleagues as well on that point about moving to seeing if we're able to move the access road location. So stay tuned. We hope to have some news from them hopefully early next week.
Thank you. Okay, very well. Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate your time and understanding and your working with us so closely on this.
Well, thank you. It was interesting to sit in on a local council meeting again. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a good day.
Confirmatory bylaw.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that bylaw 2025-07, being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of council for its regular meeting held January 31st, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Adjournment.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council adjourns the meeting at 12:40 until February 21st, 2025, or at the call of the chair.
Comments? In favor? Carried.